Hello, everyone. Welcome to watching another episode of Men's Guide to Happiness. My name is Brett, and I'm a happiness expert. But I want to bring more attention to men's happiness, and that's why for this fifth show, I have invited Scott to join us. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Perrette, nice to see you, and thank you for having me on your show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm excited about having you in the show because I'm looking into what you're doing. It's just you live the life to the fullest.
Absolutely. There was a point where I didn't. Um,
Okay. And we're going
and
to talk about that as well. Introduce yourself a little bit to the viewers to begin with.
okay, my name is Scott Kiesling, and I am originally from New York, and I have been in the film and television industry for 30 years, long time. I've been a coach for about 10 and an adventure retreat leader for about 20 years. So I am a serialpreneur. I
Mm-hmm.
have My wife and I have several businesses that we run. Um, Most of them have to do with happiness, living your best life,
Mm-hmm.
and adventure.
Mm-hmm. I like that. You know what I noticed as well? A lot of people who live to their fullest, they're not so stuck in like having this one job for all their life. Most of them have done so many different things and still doing so many different things, which doesn't mean that doing the same thing all your life is bad, but you just have to know which one you like more.
Well, and that's a great point. And we hear from a lot of clients when we give them sort of their first survey about why they're unhappy, why their life isn't what they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we find is a lot of humans, men and women,
Okay.
stay in these jobs that they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And then it basically creates the unhappiness within them because they don't like going there, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
it starts that perpetual cycle of unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that I had a same kind of little bit of conversation with that about another guest, and they were saying sometimes the not going to the job is not even about the job, but the supervisor or somebody like that. So they don't create the environment where the person will enjoy that life job.
Yeah, and the three things that we hear most from
Okay.
folks around unhappiness from men and women is
Okay.
their job.
Mm-hmm.
Number two are the relationships in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
supervisors, coworkers, friends, family, siblings, right? All of it.
Okay.
And again, it's developing those relationships will help to create that happiness in your life.
Mm-hmm. And what was third? You said three things, right?
So what we hear is job, relationships, and that's
Relationships.
personal relationships, intimate relationships. And then the third is the amount of money they have.
Yes. Oh, actually, that makes sense. All those three, that makes sense. That is, if those three things are fixed, then pretty much everything is fixed.
Well, and here's the thing: it's less about those exterior things, and this is what we
Okay.
teach clients. It's less about those exterior things, right? Those are all other things.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to do with self.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to the point of understanding where true happiness comes from, which is
Mm-hmm.
within, it has
Yes.
nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do
No.
with the size of your home. It has nothing to do with the affluence of your job or friendships.
Mm-hmm.
It has everything to do with the emotions and the story that you create about your life.
Mm-hmm.
We've met folks that live in villages in grass huts with dirt floors,
Mm-hmm.
no television, no computers, no anything, right? They have a
Mm-hmm.
we went to one and their refrigerator system was a cold river, and they like dug it out so that it would come through. They built a metal box to sit in the cold river, and that's where they put their eggs and things, right? Some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life.
I see that.
I've also worked with billionaires who were not happy at all, and they had everything in their life. So again, it's really not about those exterior things when it comes to happiness.
Exactly. That's the important thing to understand, that if you don't know what happiness is and how to pursue happiness, those things not going to change anything in your life. First, you have to know what happiness is for you, and then you decide what you're going to do. You know, that's why those people, a lot of times people look at those, especially those people who have everything and they're still not happy. It's because they think those things are happiness. You know, they're not working on themselves, while the people who don't have anything, they struggle, but all they have is themselves.
Yeah.
It's easier, I think, those villages as well. Why it's a little bit easier is because their mind is not programmed or messed up with all this media thing that you have to have all this to be happy. So their mind is not messed up.
Yes, I agree that there's less cultural programming in different parts of the world, depending on where anybody is listening from. And so I agree, the mind is not as poisoned as maybe it is here in America and other Western cultures.
Okay, I want to go focus now. I know you work with couples and with a woman and men both, but let's focus for a second only on men. What do you like? Mostly men think about happiness. Do they even think about happiness or?
So what we found is they do think about happiness, right? And there's less talk about it because of the, again, stereotypical, hold the emotions in, don't talk about our sadness or our happy or anything. But yes, men do want to be happy. Men do think about their happiness. And what we find with clients is that, unfortunately, the majority of men out there are not happy. And again, the reasons are partially the environment that not only they grew up in, but the environment that they live in, the beliefs that they have around what should make them happy, instead of finding that happiness for themselves, right? We hear from a lot of single men, oh, when I find her, I'll be happy. You got to be happy before you meet her.
Exactly. Otherwise, that other person is not gonna make you happy. And it's not their job as well. You have to bring your own happiness to the relationship.
Yeah, and it's important to understand what makes you happy authentically. And what I mean by that is, as we grow up as children into adulthood, we're kind of told what makes us happy, right? By our parents and our caregivers and all of these people, our friends, our classmates, that kind of gears us. It's not until we maybe adventure out, right? Create that adventurous mindset to adventure out to see what brings my self joy, my inner self. And, for me, nature is one, to just sit in nature, right? That brings me joy in my soul, right?
Exactly.
So if I can create happiness within, the things that sort of come at me in life that I get to practice with, I don't have to sort of drop to the unhappy level that I got in a car accident, or that my bank account is empty, or that somebody yelled at me for cutting them off, or I can just see the experience for what the experience is, but
Mm-hmm.
still create happiness within me, because it's the emotion and the story, the emotion and the thought that either creates happy or unhappy within the
Mm-hmm.
self.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you see, the way I want to put it together as well, you were saying men think about happiness, but they don't talk about it as much as they should. Like if they would be more open about talking about it with each other as well, because men get together and they talk about work, business, money, cars, sports. But if they would occasionally start talking about a little bit about happiness as well, that would change it. Or like go on an adventure. So that's great. What is Scott? What is your own opinion about happiness? Your personal, really personal.
Yeah, so I do truly believe that it comes from within. I have been on both sides of happiness. Right, there was a period of
Mm-hmm.
time in my life where I was very unhappy, and I had a
Mm-hmm.
great job. Right, I worked on some of the biggest films in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I From the outside, you would have thought, wow, that guy's
Mm-hmm.
really got it together. But on the
Exactly.
inside, I wanted to die. I was that unhappy.
Okay.
And having mentors and coaches, people like Tony Robbins, who for me really helped me to develop that inner self-love, that inner happiness. Because once I understood that emotion and thought created my outcome, it created my reality, it created the interactions I had in relationships, right? So if I came
Mm-hmm.
home
Mm-hmm.
and my emotion was anger, and my thought habit was that my wife is rude to me all the time, right? Or my
Mm-hmm.
kid is rude to me all the time. If that's the emotion and the thought, when I come into that relationship, how do you think I'm going to act?
You're gonna act rude as well because you
Right?
already,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're going to be a mirror image. So
Mm-hmm.
when I understood that, and I understood, and here is the for me the most important piece to this.
Okay.
When I understood that happiness was actually a choice,
Mm-hmm.
that happiness was actually a choice for me, for everybody, that I could choose what that emotion was. I could
Mm-hmm.
choose the meaning that I gave an experience that created that emotion and that thought. And if I could create it to be angry and rude, couldn't I create it to go the other way? Couldn't I create it to be in joy? And if I'm in joy, my thought habit is I'm not coming home to a loving wife. I'm coming home to a loving family. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
this incredible job that I love.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk through the door of that experience, now how do you think I act?
You're gonna bring that energy with you, and there's gonna other people gonna pick it up and they're gonna act on it as well.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
happiness can actually be contagious,
It
just
is.
just
Mm-hmm.
like unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
We are the vessel that can create that anywhere because it's choice. And when I learned that, when I really learned it, when I really allowed myself to believe it, right? At such a deep level. And I couldn't do it by myself, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was lucky enough to have conversations with people like Tony Robbins to help me along that path, to teach me, right? I went to Tony's school for coaching. Um,
Mm-hmm. And you
because
were, I saw that, I saw the video, I saw you were on a stage with the virtual stage with him. So that's really cool as well, actually.
yeah, I got to be on 3 times with Tony uh,
Oh, wow.
on his
Mm-hmm.
virtual events, which for me is a dream come true. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the next thing for me is to be at a live event and hug him, uh,
Oh, wow, cool.
and actually you know
Mm-hmm.
get to hold on to him for a second. because like I told him, he changed my life. He saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my depth of darkness, there was a point of unhappiness. And again, understanding, number one, it was choice. And through the emotion and the thought habit, right? So we talked about the emotion, the thought habit. What I did was I changed it from this disastrous past that I had,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of all these mistakes and this horrible stuff. And what I did was I changed that mindset, and I became, had an adventurous mindset, which is what Tony talks about as a compelling future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
having an adventurous mindset equals a compelling future, because we drop the idea that things are impossible, right?
Mm-hmm.
We become curious about what is possible. We become curious about the uncertainty of life instead of dreading the uncertainty of life. And
Mm-hmm.
that adventurous mindset, again, because it's from the inside, it just radiates happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's go a little bit back for the viewers, that maybe some of the viewers are right now in that point of unhappiness. So what would be the first step to do? Because I think it's like you gotta acknowledge, but what would you say? What would be for the men in
Yeah,
a situation where they feel unhappy? They're watching the show right now, they feel unhappy. What should they do?
be honest about it. Share it, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the acknowledgement is exactly what I'm talking about, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
We have to have, the first step to anything is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can be aware that you go around unhappy, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
can listen to your language, your outer language and your inner language, because both
Mm-hmm.
of them are talking from a place of unhappy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's a problem.
Yeah.
Everything's a challenge. Everything
Mm-hmm.
has to be overcome. Right? There's lots of language that sort of will point out how you're
Yeah. I
feeling.
would, Scott, I will point out this language as well. When they thinking that if I will, then I will be happy. I think if you have that kind of thought, that means as well that some things are, you're not in a right understanding what is happiness. If you think, still thinking this thought that if I will, whatever it is, have or do or happens, then I will be happy. No,
Yeah.
you can create it now just the way it is now.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Um, that that's the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging it. It's taking the pause within that and seeing like, oh, here's a habit that I do out of unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
If we can be aware, be aware, take the
Mm-hmm.
pause, recognize like, oh, here's this. I'm about to do this out of unhappiness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
unhappiness can mean a lot of things, right? I was a very
Yeah.
angry, unhappy person.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
my anger was very high. So it was like a lot of my actions were out of anger.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if I could see it, have the awareness, okay, this is a situation that I'm creating unhappiness within me around this experience, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I give this experience a certain meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So with the awareness, we look at the experience and go, okay, take that pause. Now, can we do something different? Can we take a new approach to it?
Mm-hmm.
And in that new approach for men, it may be talking about it. It may be finding other men or a coach that you can really get authentic with, that you can really break down and go, look, I've been in this job and it sucks and I hate it and it's this and it's that, or my
Mm-hmm.
relationships, right? We hear that. Those are two really top pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it comes back to self. When we begin to understand it, when we begin to go, okay, I'm unhappy. I've created unhappiness within myself because
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying in a job or a relationship or whatever too long. It's not authentic. I truly, there's no joy that it brings me, right? But I stay for the money, the insurance, the length of time I've been here, the stature I have, the right, all exterior, none within, right? So when we work with clients and we begin to show them that piece and really get authentic, really, because the world is not going to crash. It's just not, right? Your world is going to actually become better.
Yes, I believe so.
That's the piece that I think drives people to stay, is that fear of the what if, right? So they stay in this. It's like, well, I know the unhappiness I'm in, and that's more comfortable than creating this happiness that you talk about, right? But it's not that hard to create. And when we live authentically and we begin to create it, worlds open up, right? There's no more stress and tension and ulcers and nightmares and staying awake and drinking ourselves to sleep, and right, all that goes away.
Yep.
Because we begin to live authentic. So those would be the key points for me to share with men, to be aware of it, talk, right? Take that pause and really work on practicing a new action, a new habit.
Yeah, that was beautiful that you put it exactly the way it should be for to begin with, and you move from there. You start building everything else. First, you acknowledge it, and then you start taking other steps. So, how about this one? You talk about anger, and I think a lot of men do actually are the same way like you were. I believe there's more anger in men than it is in women. So, did you acknowledge your anger, or it's just you grew up with it?
So I did grow up with it. I grew up in a household that anger was the emotion that was supposed to teach lessons, right? That was
okay, I got it. I get it.
The way that my household was.
Mm-hmm.
So I believed, right, and it goes back to generational conditioning, right? My father grew up the same way. His father was the same. His grandfather was the same. So as I developed into a young man, the anger was the only way I knew how to express the different things that I was feeling, the different experiences that I was having. So as I grew and as I got mentors and coaches and learned, I had a son. And I thought, like, I don't want any of what I grew up with to transfer to this little baby. And that meant, like, going even deeper than I had already gone. Now, my son today is 25 years old, and I have changed the generational conditioning of my family for life, forever, for generations to come. Because I acknowledged that anger, because I was able to look at it and go, okay, not everybody goes from 0 to 100 over like some spilled salt. Right?
Yep.
It's not normal. It was normal in my house, but it's not normal in society. Yes, there are households, right? There's a percentage, but that percentage was not as big as I thought. Right?
Okay.
I thought that happy, great households were the minority, and that what I grew up in was normal, right? It was, and we all think, we all have that perception as humans. When I was able to really see outside myself to go, wow, there's something different. So how can I change that within me? If I don't want that anymore, if I don't want that anger, where can I start? And I'll give your listeners some steps that they can begin to practice if they feel like anything I've said rings a bell, like, oh, that's a little bit like me, right? All of you folks out there that know what I'm talking about have been called 0 to 100 probably, or something along those lines, right?
Scott, before you're going to start giving, remember the points. I want to point out that the viewers as well. So listen what Scott said, that it could be the anger could be generational thing that you learn from your family. So now is the point. Now you understand your anger. Now is the point. Scott gonna give us points how to change it.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is that for a lot of us, that emotion, whatever the emotion is, we value it as anger, right? It's the only thing we know. So we go straight to it. It's very quick in our brain to go to that place because it equals love, it equals connection, it equals significance, right? It creates it fills the needs of the human being by becoming angry. So how can we fill those needs differently, right? And I like to look at it as a train leaving the station. Anger is the train, okay? The emotion is the train. And that train does not go 0 to 100 like we've been taught or we've been told or we think. There are actually steps that it takes to get the train moving, okay? And anger is the result of the train reaching the peak of the hill and going down.
Okay.
And once it's on the down slope, it's going very fast. That's the 100 part. But the 0 part going up the hill is like an old roller coaster. It takes many clicks to get to that threshold to go over. So what I learned is that I could connect the dots going backwards. I could see the anger as the result of something. And then look at it going back. So my anger, and for me, it might have been, grabbing somebody by the lapel, okay? But it wasn't 0 to 100 grabbing the lapel. It was many steps that got me there. So from the lapel, I had to back up. What happened right before that? Well, right before that, my breathing was changed. My shoulders were up. My arms were clenched. My insides were going. And I was also telling myself some sort of narrative about this experience. So as I began to move those steps back, I found that for me, the first thing was that I started to sweat a little bit. My palms would sweat a little. I'd feel a little extra perspiration. The second thing that happened for me is that my breathing would change. It'd become more short and rapid. The third thing that would happen for me is I would get this tension in my neck and my shoulders. And the fourth thing that would happen for me is my hands would start to tighten. Those were all the steps of the train leaving the station. So as I could be aware and take a pause and create a new action, I could start to back off, not get to the lapel, not get to the tight neck, not get to the heavy breathing, not get to the points. It's a practice. This doesn't happen overnight, right? This is a practice. But within that practice, I found freedom. Freedom, and I found that not every emotion is anger.
Yeah. And you can choose what reaction you're doing, and you can, instead of reacting angry, you can react calm, and you can walk away and you can find some kind of positive solution. I also always try to tell people, whatever the situation is, try to find positive solution to that situation. You can get angry, you can get sad, like momentarily, but after that moment, try to find positive solution.
Yeah, and it's, for all of you out there that are like, oh, you talk about it like it's easy, and it's not, right?
It's not.
And
Mm-mm.
I'll give everybody a little hint. I've been practicing this for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I still do not have the ability to catch the first thought.
Okay.
I can catch the second, the third, the fifth, right? Sometimes the 10th thought
Mm-hmm.
into that thought habit and go, whoa, wait, hold on. Is that thought, is what I'm telling myself, actually true about what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is it really true? Is this person attacking me? Am I taking this personal for no reason? What can I take the pause in awareness? Right? Awareness comes first,
Mm-hmm.
and a pause. It's like in that pause, like, okay, what's really going on? Can we see the truth of it and not the perception or the story that we're creating around it? And again, it takes practice. It takes mentors like for me, it was Tony Robbins.
Yeah. You have to start listening to different content. You have to start listening to people who are living the life, that type of life that is a happy life, and you have to start listening to them and get the mentors. And I agree. I always talk about the same thing about practice, because now it feels so easy and normal for me to be happy and be in a happy place. And I'm kind of bored. I was born with it as well, kind of. I never had to really do big relearns. But there were moments there where I was not. But there were some other things that started bothering me in my mind, and I had to practice to control my mind. And after you practice, like for you probably as well, Scott, now it's so, like you said, it's not always, but now it's so easy, not easy, but so much easier.
Yeah, it's when we talk about it, I equate it to like weightlifting or exercise in general.
Yeah.
Nobody goes out and runs a big marathon without practice, without training.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody goes to the Olympics as a weightlifter without starting to lift very small weights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we like to talk about are 1 degree shifts. And 1 degree shifts are very small actions that we can take in the pause, in that new action that we take. 1 degree, one little thing, right? So if for me, it was like if I was angry 7 days a week, if I could not be angry for an hour or two, I would celebrate it, right? If I could see it and have the awareness around it, I celebrated it. Every time we take a 1 degree shift, it doesn't seem monumental right now. It's not overwhelming, okay? Like a sailboat, if we take a 1 degree shift right now over 100 nautical miles, that 1 degree shift is huge on a compass, on a map. And so is it with the human. When we take that 1 degree shift today and tomorrow and again and again, the easier it is for that monkey mind to go away, right? That's the practice. It's like catching it, changing it one time, and then again, and then again, and again, and again.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it becomes, what you're doing is you're building a new neural pathway. So right now, like the neural pathways can go to anger so fast because there's a groove built, right? And I'm going to explain this in a man brain, okay? That groove is like a railroad track, and it's a high-speed railroad, right? It's a racetrack for cars. It just knows the track. It gets there. So the practice is building a new neural pathway. It's building a new roadway for that race car to go, oh, nope, I don't go that way anymore. I go this way. Oh, nope, I don't go that way. I go this way. The more times you go the other way, at that moment, in that curve, the stronger the new neural pathway goes, and it becomes the habit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a habit that you've created. It's time
Yep.
to create a new habit.
Mm-hmm. And I'm pointing out as well to have that new, you were saying, like, pay attention when you get angry, but pay attention also when you're happy. And okay, oh, I feel happy. Same way with like the anger. Feel happy. What I did, what made me happy. Do that again, and just pay attention, like small pieces, like those happiness. When you feel that happiness, acknowledge it, make it as big as possible, and next time again, next time again. So that feeling becomes more into your normal feeling. So you have, whenever you get that feeling, oh, it feels so good. And next time you start seeking out those other things that make you feel the same way.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Right. Tying that into the physiology creates that total new belief.
Mm-hmm. I like those, Scott. I have one little story of mine. How you were saying catching out your first thought, that it takes time. I'm amazed. It was like, I remember there was one time when I was still practicing as well, catching my thoughts. But there was one time I woke up in the morning with something that would have worried me, but I had no reason or something. It was just random thing. It would have been in my head for maybe the rest of the day. But I used this, like I just said, cancel. And oh my God, it was just gone. But I had a lot of previous practice. But then it was like one morning I just said cancel. And that thought that could have made my day harder for all day, it was just gone. It just takes practice. And then it's just like you said, you catch it in a second thought or first thought, and it's just, it doesn't go along with you for all day.
Yeah.
But for some people, for years.
Oh yeah. And that's it, right? It's that acknowledgement, it's that awareness that you're having the thought. Right. And for so many humans, we run on autopilot. We believe this is just how it is. And we don't even recognize that there's this other voice that's leading us on our day, right? Like, oh, it's Monday. Mondays suck. Mondays always suck. Monday, right?
Yeah.
Where did you get that belief?
Yep.
You heard it sometime before, right? So if we catch it, like you said, acknowledge it, we get the choice to change that belief. We get the choice to change the thought habit. And the more times we practice, the new thought habit is like, it's Monday, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Just don't say the same thing all over again. Just don't say it,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Scott, we're moving towards the end, but I want to leave a lot of room to talk about your business, because I think your business is so cool. So I want to leave a lot of room to talk about what you do for business right now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, first of all, and allowing me to share with your audience. My wife and I have a coaching business. We help with single women who really have it all together, right? They have a great career, they have a nice house, but they struggle in their relationships, right? They struggle to really find that one that they've been searching for. And we also have a retreat business where we take singles, we take couples, and we, depending on the retreat, right now we have a singles retreat in November. That is almost full. We have like 2 spots left, I think. But it's a singles retreat. So we're going to practice dating. We're going to practice communication, right? We have 6 workshops over 8 days on dating skills, on communication skills, on active listening, on mind chatter, right? That thought habit that we get into maybe when we're speaking to somebody. And we really help folks to develop the self-love that it takes to not only create happiness in their life, not only to live their best life, but to have the best relationship with themselves, so that all of their other relationships are the ripple effect of that and become amazing, right? We
Mm-hmm.
we have found that out of our single clients, 8 out of 10 find their significant other within 2 years of working with us. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, they get married. We get invited to weddings
Oh,
constantly.
that's nice.
And it's like they finally got to that point where it wasn't a struggle anymore, and they could
Mm-hmm.
be authentic to attract in that person. And those are really the skills that we teach on the retreats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our retreats are 8 days. They're in Costa Rica. They
That's
are.
that's
They
what I
are.
wanted to point out, that your retreats are in those locations. They're active retreats. They're not just something that people tell us. That's what I wanted you to talk more about this. So that's why I wanted to leave more time for it, because the environment where the retreat is so cool. It's like it has adventure to it by itself.
Yeah, and you heard me talk about the adventurous mindset and what that does for us as humans. And that doesn't mean that going to Costa Rica to spend time in a jungle has to be your adventure, right? For some people, I've had clients where standing on their front porch at night was the adventure because they haven't been out of their house at night in 10
Oh.
years, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that adventure is different for everybody. But when you come on one of our retreats, it's an adventure of a lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not only building that relationship with yourself and the other participants, right? You become friends for life. But we tie the mindset into the physiology. So what I mean by that is we've talked about mindset a lot, and that shift, the shift in the thought habit. But our body, so we talked about anger. So I can change my mindset around anger, right? And I can pause the thought, and I can have awareness, right? And I can take a new action. But my body still knows that I'm supposed to get angry.
Okay.
Your body is the biggest memory you've got, not this one, but this one. And
Okay.
it holds all of the experiences that we've ever had in life in a memory form. And so for people with depression or anxiety, we've practiced it so long that our body knows when it's supposed to happen and how it happens. So
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that, so for anger, my body knew what to do for anger. Our body knows what to do for depression. Our body knows what to do for anxiety.
Okay.
Right? And so what our adventure retreats do is they take this new mindset that we've developed and we tie it into the physiology so that your body doesn't tell your mind a month from now, hey, we're supposed to be angry. Hey, remember, we're supposed to be depressed. Your
Mm-hmm.
body now matches the new mindset. And so if you're positioned with an experience or an opportunity to practice after one of our retreats, right? One of the adventures that we do is a waterfall rappel. So we actually rappel down through a waterfall, right? There's water running on it.
Wow.
It's amazing. And what that represents for clients when they come home is that life coming at you, right? And we've all been there, right? We get it. Life is life. Things are going to happen. People are going to pass away. We're going to have car accidents. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
go broke. Things are going to happen.
Yeah.
That waterfall represents that to the body. And in that moment, as we're coaching, because there's coaching through this, right? We're on the waterfall with you. And as we coach you to move, to step through the waterfall, to get to the bottom and succeed, your physiology now knows when life comes at you, we take action. Mm-hmm. When life comes at you, you move through, right? You don't freeze. You don't back up. You take an action and mm-hmm. another action and another action to get to success. And again, that adventurous mindset, that compelling future, that success that you're going to have creates happiness within. because you did it. Not an exterior thing, not something else, you. And every one of our adventures, and there's 6 adventures in our 8-day retreat.
Mhm.
Every one of our adventures is geared to represent something in life, to represent one of these, right? We have one with fear, we have ones around communication, we have the waterfall rappel, which really represents all of life and how it can feel to us sometimes. But again, moving through that and growing through that, what that does when they come back is a complete makeover. It's a complete new them to begin that practice at a high level when they come home.
Mhm. Because you bring it with you and you're gonna live that afterwards in your daily life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There's just like no question. It's just it will happen, you know.
Yeah.
It's
And
not like that kind of thing is you're gonna go home and it's not gonna be like everything's gonna settle back the way it was before because it's not possible because now you're like you said, your body is the one that's different. It's
yeah.
different from when you're just sitting in a place and you're just listening and your body doesn't have any action. That's why I think those retreats where people actually have to do something physically, that's like you said, your body, you're changing the body memory.
Yeah. And it's so incredibly important to the overall change of who you want to become. You know, doing this adventure therapy for over 20 years with people in my rock climbing gyms and our adventure retreats, what we found was that the conversations that we have
Mm-hmm.
not only change the mindset and the belief around what's possible in life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when we change impossible to I'm possible, everything opens up. And that's really what these retreats do. They really open you up to the possibility of life. And people come back and they find new jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They create a life that works for them. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the biggest difference that we see is that our clients go from sort of being dragged along through life
Okay. Mm-hmm.
to actually creating their life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we see it in so many different ways in the way that they change, not only their body language, but their actual language changes.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking to a client yesterday who everything was always the problem, and this is bad and that's bad and this is, and there's always this cusp where we see the clients change, and it's just through conversations, right? It's like this. When we coach, it's conversational.
Mm-hmm.
But when we hear the client's language change, the way that they come to the call, the way that they describe things, it's like, okay, we've gotten to that subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
They've practiced enough that the language is becoming automatic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now it's about the physiology. Now let's match it so that your body thinks, yeah, like, I can lose 10 pounds. I
Yeah.
can become more fit. I can, instead of I can't do this and I can't do that, or we get into that world. So having that change, we see, just allows people to live a life by design, a life
Mm-hmm.
that they truly love, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you get up on a Monday and it's like, let's go,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the same thing I want to point out. It's exactly the same with the happiness feeling. You don't go through the day or life thinking like, oh, it has to come from somewhere. No, you create it. You create it for yourself. You get to create it for your partner. You get to create it for your kids. You get to create it for your friends. You are the one who can create the happiness instead of waiting for something happy to happen. You know?
Yep. And that is such an important point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like we said earlier, we hear people all the time, I'll be happy when.
Mm-hmm.
No, be happy now, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an old saying, and it was like, uh, do, be, have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that it should be, do, have.
Mm-hmm.
Become it. Become it in every way you possibly can. And
Yeah.
you'll do it automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll create that reward. You'll have whatever it is you're looking for. If
Yeah.
if you become the person who you want to be in that great relationship, right? We talk to people all the time about relationships. And it's like, oh, I want somebody that travels and I want somebody that's adventurous. Okay, when's the last time you traveled or were adventurous? And they're like, oh, it's been years. You have to be it
Mm-hmm.
to have it, right? You have to be it. You have to be it first and be it authentically and be it for you. And it will attract in all of the dreams that you've ever wanted in life.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. We got a lot of really good advice. So that's cool. Let me put that website out again, and all the links for Scott are in the description as well. So make sure you get in contact with him. For there's so many interesting things to still learn and get coached and go on those adventures. That will be amazing.
Yeah,
Life
and
life changing.
yeah, and let us know that you saw me on this great podcast. And we have a happiness workbook that we're going to share also in one of the links.
Yeah,
And
if it's not in, it will be in descriptions.
yeah, we'll
Mhm.
get it in there. And it's a great workbook to begin to look at what aspects of your life are happy and unhappy and why, and what new
Mhm.
actions you can take. And I'll leave you with this as my last thing.
Mhm.
When we take an action, when we say, I'm going to create more happiness in my life, and I hope that's what we've stirred up for all of you today, is that you want to create more happiness in your life. Don't put someday or one day after that sentence.
Mhm.
Your calendar has 7 days, and I want you to pick a by when date. I'm going to create more happiness in my life by today.
Today, something today.
Today, now, right now.
Yes, right now, right after watching this show, do something that makes you happy.
Yes, create it for yourself.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's do this. I ask all the guests the same thing. What makes Scott some simple things, few simple things that things or activities that's something really simple, like somebody were just telling people that they can do today. But for you, Scott, what are the simple things or activities that make you feel happy?
Hmm. The first thing that comes to mind is sitting near a waterfall.
Okay.
For me, nature is the best way for my soul to feel happiness. And so, whether that's a walk around the block
Mm-hmm.
with my dog and my wife,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or that's sitting on my front porch watching the hummingbirds come and go,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is really what brings me happiness, right? Creating joy in my
Mm-hmm.
wife's life is happy for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it for her, right? Like it's
Yeah.
very selfish. I'll be
Yeah.
honest, right? Like I'm a great husband because it brings me joy to
Mm-hmm.
be a great husband, right? Um, it makes me feel, it fills my needs in a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when I go out of my way to bring joy to her, to my dog, to nature, to a stranger, um, that's what, for me, that's what builds happiness.
Mm-hmm. I think we kind of like even have to find a different word than selfishness for that, because that is really true. Like we use word selfishness, but it does truly feel, if you learn how to do it, it truly feels so good to make somebody else to feel good as well. So it is like positive selfishness, you know?
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? We put meaning to everything, right? So you put a meaning on what I meant as selfishness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we also put meanings on words like consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I live consequences every day, and I love them. The consequences that I live are incredible,
Okay. Yes.
right? Because I live out of a different mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Selfish for me is like, I'm going to be selfish all day long.
Mm-hmm.
If
Good things.
I'm going to do things that just light me up.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to a grocery store and the cashier seems like it's one of those days, it's a Monday, I'm going to spend time to actively speak to that human, to get a
Yep.
little spark. As much as you might think I'm doing it for them, and I am, right? There's a part of me
Yep.
that wants them to have joy, but for me, it's the spreading of joy that brings me joy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm going to spread it no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
because it's for me.
Mm-hmm. Actually, now I'm thinking it's not only for, because it makes a happiness for both people. So eventually, it is for both.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
And it's, the idea of like, I want to change the world, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have this
Yep.
idea that I want to change the
Me
world. I
too.
want to make it
Me, I want to change the world too.
a more loving, caring, happy place,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can't change the world. I can't do it, but I can change me, and I can
Mm-hmm.
change one other person I run into today,
Yeah.
and I can influence them in a happy, loving way. Maybe they go home and they're a little happier and a little more loving to their child,
Mm-hmm.
or to their partner, or to their coworker. That's the only way I can change the world. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do it one person, one community, one podcast, one couple, one single person at a time. And I pray that they all go out and spread that love and that joy so that we can all change the world together.
Yes. That's beautiful. I'm gonna actually, because the hour going and end, I'm gonna end in this because that's a beautiful ending. So everyone, everyone who watched the episode, your goal is to go do something that makes you feel happy today, and go also make one other person happy today. So those are your things to do today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow as well, but today, starting already today. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Watch the other episodes as well, please, because there's great value in all of them. Bye.